welcome to our podcast today. Let's talk about energy. These are bite-sized podcasts to help you to explore and understand a little bit more about energy healing, and those things that can affect our energy in a positive or a negative way. So please let me introduce to you today Amanda.
Hello.
And I'm Jo, and this is episode 6 of our podcasts that we are bringing with you today. So Amanda, we know that there are many energy healers out there, and they all do an absolutely amazing job. And we too are energy healers, but I am just conscious of the fact that not everybody fully understands what energy is about, and that's what we're here to try and explore and explain and educate our listeners with. But at the beginning of each podcast, we like to introduce ourselves, and also we like to share with you something that we're using currently that is an energy tool, as we would call it in our profession. So over to you, Amanda.
So this week, I've been using some cards, and they're the Crystal Oversoul attunements. And so I just pulled one for this episode and the time that it's going out, and it's aquamarine. So I don't know if you can see that. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's all about, it's one of the most beneficial stones to call upon in times of need or upheaval. And it helps with fears or anxiety, holding one back. So, and I understand you've been wearing it. So
actually, I've just been wearing mine over the last few days. So yes.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's your tool been?
So yes, so my tool this week has been to use my kitchen bells, little bells that you use. They give a beautiful sound, and they're very good for cleansing and clearing the energy. So because we are in spring and things are starting to waken up, I've just been using this every day in my treatment room just to keep the energy bright and shiny.
Yeah, and obviously, listeners, by the time you hear this, it may not be spring at that point, or it might be, depending where you are in the world. So today we are going to be speaking. It will be brief because these are meaty topics. And what I will say, listeners, is if you want to know more about any of the subject matters, then just drop a comment. And we are so happy to actually do further podcasts, aren't we, Jo?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So today it's about rest, relaxation, and sleep. So as I say, really big topics. So we're going to break each one down into the bite-sized. So it's like, what do we mean by rest, and why is it so important? So for me, rest is literally stopping and doing nothing. It's which is the hardest thing to do, I always find. And it is, for me, you are resting, you're not doing anything, you're not reading, you're not listening to music, you're doing nothing other than pausing, because that allows your energy system to start to reset. So, I mean, what do you feel about rest, Jo, from your point of view?
So I think that rest is so important, and so many people underestimate the power of rest. Quite often I hear my clients saying, I haven't got time to rest. They keep going and keep going throughout the day. And yet by having 10 or 15 minutes rest in the day can restore our nervous systems enough for us to set off again with renewed vigor and energy. And we are far more productive than we would have been if we had carried on through that time when we perhaps go a little bit tired or a bit depleted. And you all know when that time of day is. It's about 4 o'clock for me when I go, need a cup of tea. So yes, so the power of rest actually outweighs the time it takes to do the rest. And when we talk about the nervous system, Amanda, what does it do for the nervous system when we rest?
what it does is it allows it to recalibrate, to sort of like put everything into order, rather than you get to the end of the day and you've maybe done 16 to 18 hours of do. So your subconscious, when you then go to sleep, is trying to file away all of those 18 hours. Whereas when you do that rest, it allows the system to start filing away things more appropriately. So long term, you'll be healthier. You will, as well as having that rest, your subconscious is able to process information. You'll be able to learn more easily. In fact, there are so many benefits. I'm thinking, why don't we go and rest now?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if we were to share with the listeners, how can they rest? And how long do you have to rest for? What would you share with them?
It does not have to be hours. I mean, that's, I think, one of the things. As soon as someone says you got to rest, you go, oh my God, I don't have time, like you said. And I often find just a 5 to 10 minute, 20 ideal, but let's face it, 20 minutes to find sometimes in a day can be really hard. But 5 to 10 minutes of just sitting quietly, eyes closed, um, ideally, if you can sort of manage it with a little face mask on and earphones over so you can't see or hear anything. And no, it sounds really bizarre, but you will find that, like Joe said, you are so much more productive after that. And people say, oh, won't I fall asleep? But if it's 5 to 10 minutes, you tend not to. That's where the going longer
Yeah,
can be a little bit of thought. So it's not that there's a set time, but if you can find a time regularly, then
yeah.
your system gets used to it. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I think it's going back to what we always say is listen to your bodies. If you really tune into your bodies, you are more than likely to know when your dip time, as I would call it, is. Some people it's after lunch, some people it's mid-afternoon, some people it's about 4 o'clock. You know when your dip time is, so that is the most beneficial time to rest.
Mm.
And what do we mean by rest? How can we share how to rest? What would you suggest as something to do?
Well, as I said, if you can just find somewhere, even if it's like your car at lunchtime, just to sit in there with your eyes closed, or out in a park, if there's a park near you. And
Yeah.
obviously you can't sit there with your headphone. Well, you could with your headphones, but not an eye mask, because people would think that was very strange. But it's about stopping and pausing and not doing something. So it's not going on your phone and scrolling through, oh, I've got time to answer some emails right now. It literally is about taking that time out and pausing. Like what we mentioned last time, it's that pause.
Yeah.
And that is the part. If you can lie down, for 5 minutes, great. But not many of us can find a flat surface in the daytime.
Exactly. And some other tips that you can maybe consider are not only to sit still and just have time out, but if you find that hard, then you can focus on your breath. That would be another good thing to do. When we talked about not listening to music, we really were talking about not listening to music with words. Because if you listen to music with words, you associate with the words, and then your brain starts to attach to those words, and it goes on and on. But actually listening to classical music, where there's nothing to attach a thought to, can also be really good to help you to rest. We do sometimes ask our clients to listen to guided meditations. And although that is listening to words, it does take you into that place of deep rest and restoration. And I know we talk about this a lot, and you and I both use this, is New Calm. And I think you use that every day now, do you?
I use that every day, yeah, because it has it has a rescue, which is 20 minutes long, or a power nap, which I think it's 15 minutes. So sometimes I will do one or the other, depending whether I've got 15 or 20 minutes. And I have to say the difference that has made for me, because it makes me rest, but also the frequencies that come through there, it's like literally, I can feel layers sort of disappearing off my system. It's the most interesting experience, and it doesn't happen every time, but it
Yeah.
happens enough for me to know that after that I can keep going for at least another 5 or 6 hours. easy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, whilst we just pause with rest before we move on to relaxation, what we would like to offer you for each of the podcasts that we do is something for you. And so, with this episode, we would like to offer you a free guided meditation so that you can really feel into what it's like to rest and restore. So, please look out for that along with the podcast as it comes out. And that is our gift to you for listening to us today. So, moving on to relaxation, what do we mean by relaxation?
So relaxation is, for me, I know it's slightly different for everybody else, but it's doing something that is relaxing. So it's not going to the gym. You might really love going to the gym and you might say, oh, but it relaxes me. But you're actually putting a lot of effort into it. So relaxation can be things like, reading, not answering emails. That's not relaxing. Not playing a game on the thing. I know some of you go, oh, but that makes me relax. But actually, one of the things I've realized is people get incredibly stressed in the time of relaxation because they're using that relaxation time to be playing games, to be answering things, and to be catching up on Facebook. Oh, but it chills me out.
Mm.
I don't know if you've ever been on Facebook or anything like that, but at times it is not that chilling. So yes, the relaxation for me is about, it's that sitting, you are pausing, but you're doing more sedentary things. Yeah,
Yeah.
how would you describe that?
So I think it is anything that also restores you, nourishes you, and brings you joy.
Mm.
And one of the first thing that comes to mind with relaxation is what does bring you joy? What makes your heart sing? What nourishes you and restores you? And one of the things that I love to do is to go and walk the dogs out in the Derbyshire countryside, and that brings me such relaxation because I'm out in the open air, walking in nature, being with the birds and looking at the trees and whatever the season may be. And I think it's anything that causes your nervous system to fully relax, and we call that the parasympathetic nervous system. And we live in a 24/7 full on life, and we mostly hang out in our sympathetic nervous system, which is okay at times, but not if we hang out there all the time. And we would love to talk to you more about that in a later edition, because I think it's really helpful for people to understand what their bodies are doing and what can help you to either pause or be busy, and so we will cover that in much more detail on a later episode. But if I was to say to you, Amanda, yeah, okay, you've mentioned reading, but what would help you to relax the most if you could choose anything?
Oh, wow, such a big question because the reading is the thing that I use to
Yeah.
relax. I used to use knitting, and what I realized is that when I get stressed, I count.
Ah,
And the counting helps my mind to relax. So I think that was why I really, really enjoyed the knitting. But then I kept setting myself goals. I'll finish this sleeve by such and such a date. I'll finish this part. So in the end, I've actually had to back off from that because I was almost setting myself so many goals. Whereas with reading, it's like, oh, if I finish this page, great.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but like you, I love being outside. I love being near the sea.
Yeah.
That's I'm just sitting and watching and hearing the sea, smelling the sea. And I know it doesn't always smell amazing, but even when it's not great, I don't know, I always feel so much better. I mean, there would
Yeah.
have been a reason why we used to go there to rehabilitate, or the more well-to-do people did. But
Yeah, definitely.
because sea it's calming,
Yeah.
but we can't always do that.
No, and I think, I would say to you, the listener, if you find being creative relaxing, then that's great. Um, but again, like Amanda said, if somebody said to me, I've got to paint something, I would find that quite stressful. So, just explore different ways that you can relax, but build it in to your lives, because it's really important, and life can get so serious and busy at times. So, look for what can bring you some relaxation, because it will make a lot of difference to your energetic system. So our final topic today that we're going to touch on is sleep. Can you explain sleep for the listener?
Explain it. I mean, it's something you do supposedly when you go to bed at night, you close your eyes and the body. But one of the problems that we have is that we cannot, I mean, there's like a massive amount of my clients that struggle with sleep.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because of this 24/7 constant, the idea that you have to have your phone by your bed in case you miss a call or miss a message, and then the tings go off all night long, all of that disturbs our sleep. And if we don't sleep, our body cannot heal, because when we go to sleep at night, it's filing away all the information. And some people have lots of bad dreams, out, or even nightmares, and they go, oh, I don't really like sleeping. But I come across somebody the other week, and it was ever such an interesting thing, and it's made a massive difference to me with my sleep, which is that when we go to sleep and we have these weird dreams, these intense dreams, that is our subconscious referencing all the different events that have occurred. And it is better for us to play it out in our dreams and in our sleep state, rather than have that stuff coming to us in the day, because we need to deal with it. And it's made a big difference to how I think about with the dreams and everything. So now if I have like a really cookie dream, I just go, oh, that's great. That's my subconscious filing everything away. But it's about our body being able to rejuvenate,
Yeah.
restore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's necessary for our cells, our tissue, our blood, our bones, our organs, our brain. It's so important. And when we look at historically, one of the biggest forms of torture was to make sure that nobody had some sleep. So, if somebody does struggle sleeping for a period of time, it is exhausting, absolutely exhausting and depleting on every level. So how can one, the listener, try and promote the best quality sleep that they can promote for themselves?
So ideally, what you're looking for is for the room to be as dark as possible. Now, some people do not like the dark. So it's about maybe having a little night light somewhere that is not in your direct viewpoint, because you want your pineal gland to actually be in the dark. So just in here, because if that's not in the dark, then you're not going to get restful sleep. You're going to be in that point where you're just not quite asleep, but you're not awake either, and that makes you feel pretty rough the next day. So yeah, it's about that, having the room as dark as possible and quiet. Now, again, some people can't do anything about it if they live in a flight path. And yes, people say you get climatized to it, but it can still be that disturbing. And or if you have a partner that snores.
Yes.
So earplugs can be quite good for that, but for some people, they just don't want to do that. And somebody said to me the other day, well, why don't you just have separate rooms? And I'm like, well, it depends on whether you've got a house big enough for separate rooms, because it does. So it's about making the most of it that you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you promote it?
So I think you've mentioned two of them, dark and quiet. For me, I think that people have more restful, peaceful sleep when it's cool. A random one for you listeners is make sure that the bedroom is the colour that you like. Because if you have a bedroom that's painted a colour that you don't like, it can really affect your sleep. I know that a couple of clients have been in the past, and one of the things that's come up for them is to paint their bedroom a different colour. And when we talk about it, they go, I've always wanted my bedroom that colour, and it's bright yellow at the moment, and I can't sleep. And then they paint it, and it makes all the difference.
It's amazing.
Electromagnetic gadgets, televisions, Phones, iPads, games, no. They really can affect the quality of our sleep. Anything else that you can think of?
Well, I mean, like you mentioned with the EMF, sometimes you can't get away from them because you might be in a flat or even in a home where you can pick up everyone else's signal.
Mm.
So having something like the salt lamp that you've got like behind you, and that could be the night light as well. But what that does is that helps to rebalance the energies in the room. And, they're not expensive to buy,
Mm.
but they can make a big difference to the energy of the room and the energy of your sleep.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, would you like to offer our listeners just a summary from today?
Yeah, so basically in this bite size, what we have been talking about is the sleep, the rest, and the relaxation, and the difference between the three, and the difference that can make to your body. And when I say I'm going to challenge you, it's not the fact that, oh my God, I don't want this. It's to have a look at one of those areas just for a week. Try one of the things that we've suggested or something else that you know of and see how that feels. And then maybe the next week, one of the other categories, because when you try it, when you feel the difference, that is when the action is taken. Because you can hear all this information and, oh, yeah, we'll do it. But if you just do one thing just this week, try something from the list. Listen to Joe's guided meditation, because then you've got your rest and you've got your relaxation almost coming in as well. So it's like a double benefit there. So that's what we've been talking about. And as I said earlier, if you want us to go in more in depth on any of these, please let us know, because we want to be bringing in as much as we can to help you be the best person that you can be, the best version, and enjoy life, because that's really why we're here, isn't it? Is to enjoy life.
Yeah, definitely. So next time we will be talking about the energy of the seasons and how we can be affected by that in a positive or a detrimental way. And also we're going to just touch on the moon and setting intentions and all that that entails. So we thank you for listening, and please comment and share anything that you would like to. We would love to engage with you as we journey on this bite-sized podcast of Let's Talk About Energy. But for now, we would both like to say thank you so much for listening, and we look forward very much to seeing you next time.
Bye.
Okay.